Old motorcycle parts. What do you do with them? Let's get into this one.
RevelatorAlf.
Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. So this video is all about your old motorcycle parts or things that you swapped off your bike. What are you going to do with them? So let's just say you've upgraded your parts for whatever reason. You've done an update, you've changed your exhaust or whatever. In my opinion, I would say always keep your stock parts, because you never know. Let's just say in the future you want to sell that bike and some buyer may want to buy a stock bike or a bike that can be returned back to stock, especially if it's an older bike. So I would say if you're going to keep your bike for a long time, let's say 15-20 years, then you want to sell it. It might be more attractive as a stock bike rather than a bike that's had work done to it. So bear that in mind. Now, that's what I would do. I would always try and keep the stock parts. Obviously, lots of people will say, well, where am I going to put all these parts? Yeah, I understand that fully. So if you can store them somewhere, if you've got space somewhere that you can squirrel them away, I would do that. The other thing I would say is this. Let's just say you've changed spark plugs, and you watched some of my service videos recently, and the spark plug wires, let's say, or an air filter. If they're still in good working condition, I would always keep them as spares, just in case something goes wrong with the new part that you've put on your bike. Now, yes, I know it's highly unlikely, but with spark plugs, they're always going to be a consumable. But I think it's always good to have a good spare set in your workshop or at home or somewhere that you know that are a good set. You can quickly, if something happens, you can quickly put these back on and away you go. Same with spark plug wires. Look, I've got a stock air filter in here as well. It's hardly used. It had a couple of thousand miles on it. On inspection, it still looked okay, but I changed it out for a K&M filter. But you know what? I'm going to keep it. You never know. You never know that something isn't quite right with that K&M filter or another filter I choose to put on. I'm going to put it on. Now, some people might say I'm just keeping parts for no reason at all. But you know what? It doesn't hurt, especially if you've got somewhere to store them. So again, it comes down to storage and what your preference is. But I'd certainly say possibly not the air filter is as important for me. But certainly the spark plugs, the spark plug wires, I would say they're a good bet just to keep in the workshop as well. The other thing here then is gaskets. I'm going to make another video about this as well. But let's just say this is a clutch inspection cover or derby cover gasket as well for my motorcycle, the Sport Glide. Now, I would always say this. If you decide to change it for whatever reason, or change a gasket, and the old gasket is perfectly usable, then I would say keep it. Keep it just in case a gasket that you've put in there suddenly starts leaking, or you might have pinched it by accident as you've, reinstalled the cover or whatever it is. You know that you've always got a good gasket there ready to go. Now, it doesn't mean that this will last forever, and the reason why we change gaskets is for future proofing a lot of the time as well. But I would say, always, if a gasket is good, and the same with O-rings, if it's good, then actually just have one in reserve, or have something that you can quickly call upon just in case you're in need of a gasket replacement at short notice. Let's say at the weekend when your dealership or your parts shop isn't open. So there we go, keeping old gaskets, yes, but O-rings, that kind of thing, if they're in good condition and they weren't leaking before you took them off, then I would keep them. Okay, the other thing I would say is keep your brake fluid that you've opened up and you've done a brake fluid change just for a while longer, because you never know. Let's say you need to do another brake flush. Let's say you need to change your brake pads or whatever. You want to take some of that brake fluid out and maybe put a little bit of fresh stuff in. Now, this kind of goes against everything that I've said before, especially in that brake flush or brake bleed video, where I'd say, you always need to use fresh brake fluid, and I would absolutely say that as well. But it really depends. If you've only recently just changed your brake fluid and this has been sealed, you know, done up tight, let's say, there should be no reason why you can't use it. However, I would never use it unless I test it again. So I did the brake flush or the brake bleed about 3 weeks ago. So what I would do is just literally take some out, pour some in the cap, get my moisture tester, see if it's on green, and you can see there it's still on green. It's still absolutely fine. Make sure it is. Yeah, it's still absolutely fine. Now, just by the very nature of .4 brake fluid, it can be quite damaging to parts and paints and everything like that, but it actually can be quite a good effective cleaner as well. So, you know, if you've got some old parts or old bits of metal or old things that need cleaning, do you know what I would do is actually experiment with it a little bit and say, well, okay, I need to clean something out. If you want a little test area, see if the .4 will work for you in cleaning something up. So instead of just throwing it all away, actually it might be a good workshop tool for you to use in the future. Again, you have to make sure it's not going to damage your components or whatever you need cleaning, but if it's a case of just getting rid of grime in an effective way, this might work out for you. On certain types of dirt or certain types of grime, it works. On others, it doesn't. So as I say, you know, you can either reuse it again if you've tested it for moisture content, absolutely fine, or if it's not very good, it doesn't pass the test, let's say the moisture test, then possibly you could use it in another way, recycle its use before throwing it out. If you watch my previous video about using old oil bottles, well then you can use old brake fluid bottles in the same manner again. So I would say anything on your bike that is in good working condition or is in acceptable working condition, let's say, I would always keep. I would certainly keep it either for spare parts for my own motorcycle, or I would keep it to try to retain the future value of the motorcycle as well, or to keep those as spare parts which I can later sell on in a few years if I'm absolutely sure that I don't need them. In terms of the consumable items, I'm not really saying that you should keep these to sell these on later, of course. All I'm saying is these are just good to have in stock just in case you need a part quickly and you've got some that you know at least work. Anyway, I hope you found that useful. That's what I do with a lot of my old motorcycle parts. I always have done. I've always tried to keep what I've had, and then if I really don't need them at the end, then I'll sell them on, or sell them with the motorcycle, or have them as a package deal, and that will make my sale of my bike a lot more attractive, let's say, especially if I'm trying to get a quick sale for better money. I would certainly try and do that. But anyway, I hope you found that useful. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, like and share, and check out the website RevelatorAlf.com, and I'll catch you again. Ta-da.